Oh man, good afternoon, friends. I'm Curtis Robinson with Conway Toe to Toe and Toe to Toe Firearms and Training. And the topic for today, relative to martial arts, whether it's kickboxing or jiu-jitsu, is rewards and punishments. So I think that it's pretty important that we make some extremely important distinctions here. First and foremost, I think that typically when a kid is doing extremely well, parents want to reward them. Sometimes we might buy them a PlayStation or an Xbox, or maybe just a new game for their PlayStation or Xbox. Back when I was a kid, if you were given some sort of reward, maybe it was just a treat, something as simple as, an ice cream. That was pretty big back in my day. Of course, I'm also a Gen X kid. And I understand why we have rewards. And then also punishments. If a child's not doing well on his report card, a child maybe gets in trouble at school, a child's disobedient, so we might take away certain privileges. And I'll tell you that watching TV, for example, is a privilege. And playing PlayStation or Xbox is a privilege. It's something that the parent does not have to allow the child to do. I would even say that when we're kind of looking big picture, and I'm trying to really put this out in a way that makes sense universally, we should probably be careful what we use as leverage with our children. I'm not telling you how to raise your child because I certainly don't want you to tell me how to raise my child, but I want you to think about some things. First of all, let's think about if we have something that is working well for multiple reasons, and we initially gave it as a privilege, do we take that away as a first line of attack to punish when a child makes a mistake? Here's kind of my thinking. Let's look at, I'm a PlayStation guy. I love PlayStation. And I've had PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, and I now have PlayStation 5. And probably will get the PlayStation 6 if it ever comes out. I love PlayStation. I enjoy spending time on the game. I really do. It helps me relieve some stress. So there is a benefit to having the game system for me personally, which is to say, without that, we could also use TV, for example, or YouTube or the cell phone. Without that, I might not release the same amount of stress as a 53-year-old man. So again, when we kind of look at those things, there could be some additional benefits we're getting that we aren't necessarily thinking about when we make the initial reward. By the way, I'm 53 years old. My mom and dad are not rewarding me anymore for good behavior, so I bought my own PlayStation. Kind of keep that in mind. Okay. PlayStation and Xbox could have a benefit. Let's weigh that. How much benefit is it in the child's life? Now, I'm going to tell you, if it's just as a form of entertainment, the value of PlayStation or Xbox, I would say, was below. It would be very low. If it indeed does help them in some way relieve some stress, which is something that I use a gaming system for, or even my computer, and some people like their fun little games on their cell phones. If it's kind of a way to relieve some stress, let's give it some credit. Wherever you think it is, don't let me tell you what that is. Is it a high level of value that the person's getting, or is it a low level of value? That's the first thing. The second thing is, let's look carefully at, does it cost something for them to have the privilege? For example, PlayStation could really be worth a lot less. It could be even lower because it drains our free time that we could be doing other things, including maybe homework or physical fitness or spending time with the family. These are pretty important things for a kid. They need the time to do those things. How important is it to really lower their stress? You guys decide that. And then, of course, how important is it for them to have the entertainment? And what are we paying for? Are we paying for it in time that we could be doing something that's more beneficial? Those two things are the two factors that I'm really talking about. Let's put PlayStation aside for a minute. Let's talk about sports. For me, I'm going to allow for a moment us to think of martial arts as a sport. All right, that's hard for me because I find martial arts to be more of a way of life. When I say a way of life, it is a habit. It is a physical fitness, a mental fitness, an emotional fitness activity. It allows us really to exercise a number of our values. And when I say our values, what am I really talking about? Things like loyalty, not just being loyal to our mom and our dad. I'm talking about being loyal to our instructor, loyal to the students and how we treat them. Duty, coming and being somewhere on time is an amazing habit to have. So again, there's a lot of that. Respect, honor, integrity, personal courage, selfless service. All of these values that I hold dear can be found in martial arts. Kind of keep that in mind at this point. So, for the sake of it just being considered a sport, I want to say that martial arts has a lot in common with football or softball or swimming or track or any of these other things that kids typically do. And we're kind of especially looking at, even if you are a single runner, you are part of a track team. Even if you are a single wrestler, you are part of a wrestling team. The team needs you, and so on and so forth. Football obviously is a team sport, and baseball and so forth, softball, these are team sports. Basketball. What is the real value that we get? And what is the reward that we give, as a parent? So I'll be honest, when we're looking at sports, just sports, and we're going to consider martial arts a sport for this particular discussion, does the sport give the child something? I'm going to say every single sport your kid is involved in, their physical fitness will be better, and don't we need that? The obesity rate alone is 60% of Americans are overweight or obese in America today. They need activity. We need activity. We should be doing that. I mean, that's from the lowest point, that just jumps us right up there. Boom, with just the fact that you're physically fit or more physically fit than you would be if you didn't do the sport, I think is huge. Teamwork and esprit de corps, these are extremely important things. We tend to have a problem in this, really in the world. I would even say more specifically, especially in the United States of America, we are very individualistic. And we have to get good at being a team player. That's important for your job. I don't know a single person who has really zero interaction with other people. Even a writer, by the way, I've written 3 books, so I know this. Even a writer is part of a team. You're like, what are you talking about, Curtis? I sit by myself all day. No one talks to me. No one calls me. And when they do, they interrupt me. So me typing away on my book, it's a solo activity. Not exactly. You are the writer, but then you have an editor, you have a publisher, you might even have a publicist. So the writer is part of a team that has to work together. And if you don't get along with your editor, you're pretty much in big trouble. If you don't get along with your publisher, you're in big trouble. This teamwork concept is extremely important, even for very isolated, very individualistic jobs. And we're getting this and we're teaching this at a young age, sometimes as young as age 5. We're teaching kids martial arts where they're part of a team and they cooperate with other people in their class, in their academy, and that they are following rules and that they're being safe. We're talking about safety of each other and so forth. And I see this on the football field, on the wrestling mats. I see it on the baseball diamond. Pretty much every sport, there's a team aspect and there's a health aspect. And of course, there's this really important socialization aspect. Those things really stack up, is extremely important. Okay, we could beat that horse to death. I think that when we're looking at, a physical fitness, a teamwork aspect, we're looking at a social aspect, sports are important. And I've been involved in martial arts since I was a teenager, and I played baseball and I did a little football as a younger kid. By the way, band isn't necessarily what we consider a sport, but it has all of those same components. So being in band is part of that as well. I say that because I was in band. My kids also like to say band is a sport. So kind of keep that in mind. So what are we doing when we let someone, we're the parent, and we let the child get on the track team? We allow them. Well, we have to give up something. We have to give up our time to drive them there and pick them up and take them home. We have to maybe pay for a uniform. And maybe we are in football, you need a helmet and some pads. In martial arts, you need boxing gloves and shins, maybe an expensive uniform for judo and jiu-jitsu, for example. Maybe going out of the county area for statewide competitions is expensive. I know that a lot of baseball teams, these travel ball teams, extremely expensive. So you can give up time and you can give up a lot of money. These are things that we consider. So yeah, they get all these great benefits, but it does cost us time and it costs us money. So I get that. The value of a reward, there's a very simple value, like, oh, well, I let you play baseball. Oh, I let you, do martial arts. That small reward should not be really the primary thing we're talking about. What's the big reward? We talked about some of those things with physical fitness and socialization and teamwork. If we understand the reward and the true value of these things, then we probably shouldn't be on again, off again, on again, off again, because believe it or not, that destroys trust, right? Imagine you're on the football team and you start up during summer practice and you train very hard, and in the first 9 weeks you get a bad report card and your mom takes you off the football team and you were a starting player. You're no longer going to be a trusted player if your mom keeps taking you off the team. They can't rely on you. It's a super big deal to do that. If you take someone off the team and then you bring them back later on, all right, we're looking at football or baseball or martial arts where, hey, I'm on the team, but I got a bad grade, so now I'm off the team. Well, I got my grades up, so I'm back on the team. And then I talk to my mom, so now I'm off the team. Then I get back on the team. And then, something else happened, I got in trouble, and I'm off the team. Being so inconsistent with a sport is very different than being able to take away the PlayStation. Let's think about that. PlayStation and Xbox, if you take the PlayStation away or the Xbox away, you can give it back with no real consequence to the team, so to speak. Even if you've got some online multiplayer stuff going on, it doesn't change things when it comes to trust and reliability and ultimately building good habits and so forth. You don't lose out on the physical fitness aspect if you take away Xbox or you take away PlayStation. I'm not saying that I want someone taking my PlayStation away if I make a mistake, because again, it does have some value for me. I'm saying that when you're kind of comparing these things, let's look holistically. Where do we really stand? For Curtis Robinson, it's pretty important for me to have the stress relief of video games. I like that. That helps me. But at 53, how important it is for me to remain physically active. That's a huge advantage for a guy my age. Then we look at, it sucks up a lot of my time when I'm on a PlayStation that I could be doing other things, right? But if we take away, for me, it would be martial arts. If we took away martial arts, if I was in trouble, not only do I now have more time because I'm not going to be at martial arts, I'm not going to be with my friends, I'm not socializing, I'm not getting more fit, I've got more time, but guess where I'm going to put that time? In the PlayStation and Xbox, right? It's not exactly going to be like, oh, I give a huge gain in time for family and for, school or other important activities. What I'm really doing is I'm going to change the time it takes, because I'm going to be without my friends. My friends will be on the football team or on the wrestling team. They'll be on the track team, and I'm no longer with them. What am I going to do? I'm going to fall back on PlayStation. And I'll be doing that a lot more. The big picture here is a little self-serving for me because I own the business. I want the child to come. I obviously appreciate the tuition that their parents pay, or as an adult, the adults pay for themselves. I really appreciate that. It helps me keep the lights on. It helps me to pay the bills. But I have also seen in my entire life, and I mean this, I've seen in my entire life, I'm a different person because of the martial arts training that I've had. Number one, I'm way more self-confident. I've built habits of reliability. I understand the importance of being on a team and being consistent in those habits, being a good team player, being physically fit. I can't just one day I'm physically fit and the next minute I'm playing PlayStation doing nothing. My fitness level will drop. Over time, the brain actually changes as we learn more things. More neural pathways form. In fact, I've got, you start off kind of with one little teeny line of thinking, and it becomes a neural trunk, a neural superhighway for self-defense, for confidence, for self-discipline, and so on and so forth. So my entire thought process now as an older man has been affected because of martial arts in some way. I am more intuitive in my thinking, right? I can now kind of see moves, for example, or I see things coming. I'm more aware, I'm more alert, so on and so forth. By the way, I also understand a very moral difference because of martial arts. It's very moral of me to not want to be the bad guy. I want to be the good guy. To not want to use an excessive amount of force. I want to use the minimum force for self-defense if I can to make that, to defend myself. Additionally, I want to pass on this legacy. I want to pass on this information to my children and to my friends and to their children, right? These things are super important for me, and because it's changed me in this way, I mean, it's really, I'm a different person because of martial arts, and I really can't express that enough. I can't really put to words how important it is to me, but it is extremely, considerably, amazingly important to me. It's so important that my children now are following in my footsteps by their own choices. And I have a feeling that my grandchildren one day will follow in their footsteps. It becomes a legacy. Now, we see this also with football. If granddad was a football player and dad was a football player, you better bet son is going to be the football player, for example. If let's say grandmother was on the volleyball team and mother was on the volleyball team, you better believe daughter's going to be on the volleyball team. It becomes a generational characteristic. And guys, you should probably remember that when you were younger, what did you do? What were your sports, your activities, and so forth? I will tell you that probably video gaming, while I love, is going to be almost dead last compared to any other physical activity, including going out and hunting and fishing, which I have great friends and family members who have, hunting and fishing is their thing. It's what they've passed on to their kids. I know I beat this horse to death. Here is the bottom line. Here's the thing I want you to think about. I'm going to ask you to please think about it. Before you take your child out of sports because they've made a mistake, because they've gotten a bad grade, maybe they got a bad report card, before you take them out of their very important activity where they're with their friends and you know it's important to them, so you know it's good leverage, check and see, are there other things you can take away first? I would say you should absolutely be willing to take away PlayStation and Xbox. That's the first thing. And it will be a strong point of leverage if you need a punishment to help correct bad behavior. I'll say that's the first thing. Now, the second thing I would say you could probably take away maybe would be the cell phone. And I'll tell you that the cell phone is by far more valuable because you need them to have a cell phone so you can call them or text them or get information from them, or they can go and use as a resource to get information for themselves. It has a higher value, in my opinion, than PlayStation and Xbox. Again, I love PlayStation and I enjoy playing it, and I don't want to understate the importance of it as leverage if you need that, but it's low and it should be first. Maybe the cell phone should be second, right? And maybe you still want them to have a cell phone so you can call them, but you can switch from a smartphone back to a flip phone where they basically have phone calling and texting only and no games, no other form of social media, and you can do those things if you need to leverage those capabilities within a cell phone. once you get kind of above, and I've taken the Xbox, the PlayStation, I've taken the cell phone, those things we're still having problems. At that point, let's look back at the problem. Is the problem something that they really have a lot of power to change? For example, we have a kid, a martial arts student right here. He's been with us for years, and I helped him a little bit. We helped tutor this kid in school. He was just not making good grades. His grandmother was helping tutor him, and I mean, he'd come in early. We wanted him to train. We'd have to go over some math problems. We'd have to do some things with him to help him out. He just wasn't doing well in school. And his mother felt like she needed to leverage something to help him to be better. So she was going to, well, we'll take you out of kickboxing and jiu-jitsu. I was very against that. I'm not the mom. What say do I have? Zero. I have zero say. But the bottom line is he didn't do any better in school when they took the martial arts away. The problem persisted. Ultimately, we realized he had a hearing problem. And this kid we were able to help him get identified as hearing impaired, and they did some things in the classroom. They moved him up to the front of the classroom. There's actually a little speaker that the teacher has to have in the classroom so he can legitimately hear. And his grades went up. It was amazing. So we have to be careful to look at the problem. Are we punishing a kid because they're a knucklehead? I was a knucklehead. I got punished for being stupid, doing stupid things, getting into trouble. Or are we punishing a kid for something they can't really control? Let's look back at the problem. Let's weed out all of the I can't hear, I can't see, maybe there's a problem, maybe I just don't like the teacher doesn't like me kind of a thing. There's a personality conflict. Those are real things. Let's weed all that out before we start really hammering a child for grades or even sometimes for misconduct. Kids oftentimes get in trouble at school, or maybe they get suspended, and we want to punish them in some way, right? Recently I had a parent. He said that my kid's just gone berserk, and I'm thinking, what does that mean? He's gone berserk. Well, he's made a number of mistakes. Was the point? Okay, what is contributing to those problems? And if it is martial arts, like before, he had problems, but he never hurt anyone, and now he's just beating people up. Okay, well, we probably need to address that not only at home. Let's address it here at our martial arts facility. He needs to talk to his instructor. He needs to talk to the owner of the business and, have a real heart-to-heart conversation, not only about his conduct, which needs to be corrected, but there are legal implications if you just are beating people up. The interesting thing is that that's never, ever once been the source of any problem that was a student that I'm aware of in martial arts when I was a kid, as a teenager, as an adult, even as the owner of this business. It's never been the martial artist suddenly became the bully. It's always been maybe that the bullies before tormented them and they gave in. Once the kid stood up for himself, the bullies challenged him and then he executed good self-defense, and then there was a problem. Well, the bullies got injured, or he defended himself righteously, and then we have to look at that. Does the bullying then stop? Which means that the self-defense requirement will go down. So we kind of have to look at that problem carefully as well. But if it's not directly the source of the problem, taking someone out of martial arts, I say, is probably a mistake. Now, you run out of money, you run out of time, you no longer have a way to get them to class. It happens all the time. Those are very legitimate reasons. But if a child is having difficulty in school with grades, taking them out of martial arts isn't going to make them study harder. And you have to do that as the parent. They are going to want to play PlayStation instead of going to martial arts, instead of studying. Does that make sense? I'd rather my child be physically fit, socially well-balanced, disciplined, and respectful. I'd rather have that and get by with a B or a C than, I'm still a B or a C kid, but now I just play PlayStation all day. If the child is completely failing, they're in the D category or an F category. Hire a tutor instead of taking them to martial arts or football or baseball. I understand that. You can no longer manage both. There's not enough time, there's not enough money for a tutor and martial arts. I understand that. Totally not what I'm saying. The thing that I'm saying is, if we're going to leverage pleasure or a reward and pain or some sort of punishment in order to change behavior, be careful what you select. It shouldn't be, oh, I'm so mad, I'm just going to take this away. Be methodical about it. Take a minute. Weigh the options. PlayStation, I would say, should always be first. The phone should be second. Then we start looking at some of these other privileges, right? Football, band, soccer, track, indefinite league, and martial arts. The physical fitness benefit is enormous. The emotional, social benefit is incredible. And then ultimately, there is always going to be some sort of teamwork, respect, and morality kind of growth for people that are in those activities. Whereas there is none of that really with PlayStation. And I would say probably, if anything, PlayStation and the phone, we're typically doing things on those systems that have no moral value, so to speak. Unless you're, I don't know, maybe you're reading scriptures on your phone. I do that. I do read scriptures on my phone, so there is some value there. My point, I hope, has been made clearly. Yes, I do have a vested interest in my students staying students. If your student leaves, your child leaves, he's no longer my student, I will have to find a new student, but I will fill that spot. So the point is, I have a short-term effect in my business. But what I'd rather have a long-term impact on your child. I would like to do that. Give me the chance. Let me help your child with discipline, with respect, even with some of these scholastic or academic issues they might have. Let me help them. I can tell you right now that I wasn't always very obedient with my mother. My dad left when I was 7. I didn't always do very well in school, but I loved and I respected my coaches and my instructor, my martial arts instructor, and I did not want to disappoint them. They were pivotal role models for me. They set me up for learning to love and respect my school instructors. Isn't that an interesting parallel? By the time I was in the 9th grade, I was an A student, and I was very respectful of my teachers. And I even made good friends with several of my teachers in high school and went on to find very wonderful relationships in college with certain professors. I learned to value what they were giving me. That all started with martial arts. I would say in football, the football player, the baseball player, the softball player, the track coach, the volleyball coach, those individuals have an extremely important job. And if they're helping develop your child, it's way better than leaving them unsupervised with PlayStation or unsupervised with a phone where they can get into trouble. Just weigh those things first. Don't take away the helpful physical activities as your first go-to. But I agree that they are great leverage. Just use caution. That's what I'm asking you to do. Guys, I hope this is helpful. If your child's not in some sort of activity, I want to encourage you to consider an activity. If you don't have the money for it or the time for it, there are ways, there are programs. Give me a call. I will help you. Guys, my name is Curtis Robinson. I am the owner of Conway Toe-to-Toe, which is a self-defense training company. I am the owner of Toe-to-Toe Firearms and Training as well, which is a self-defense training company. One is unarmed, particularly for young people and adults, and the other one exclusively is for adults. I believe in self-defense. I believe in personal responsibility and accountability, and I try to get that to every client. God bless you all. Take care. Good luck. Peace.